is up? I'm Kevin Lackey with the RFN podcast, and thank you for taking time to listen to the podcast, check out the video, hear a little bit about what I have to talk about and some of my guests. I hope that we're bringing value to you as the listener, taking time out of your day to maybe learn or hear stories, hear things from people that may be able to influence your life in a positive way. This podcast is meant only for a few things. It's to bring knowledge to people, experiences that I have or that some of my guests have had, and it's to push people to be their very best and to do their very best. I don't get paid to do this. I take it out of my own time because I've been encouraged by a lot of people that I have a great message and a lot of experiences that may be able to help you or someone you know in their journey to be the very best version of them that they can. That is my only goal. It's to see people and to push people and encourage people to be the very best version of them, of themselves. And so I've done this podcast with a series of different topics and a series of guests that I hope can bring some value. So I would encourage you to, if you enjoy the podcast, go to the channel on whatever platform you listen, subscribe to the RFN podcast, and also please leave a review. That's very important to me, so I really appreciate it. Other things, just real quick before we get going, I've got this right here, man. Look at this big poster. Look at that. That's crazy, man. I got a poster of me on it. My buddy Will Churchill right there, owner of Frank Kent Cadillac, Fort Brewery and Pizzas, Cadillac Wines. The dude has multiple businesses across multiple states, hundreds of employees, and he's been multi-generation entrepreneur family. And him and I are going to be meeting at Fort Brewery in Magnolia, South Fort Worth, October the 8th at 6 p.m., doing a live podcast celebrating Podcast Day, National Podcast Day that was just yesterday. And I hope that you will take the time to come out, enjoy some of the food. You got great beer, great wines, everything's homemade, and we're going to have a lot of fun. They've got games and all that cool stuff there. It's a great atmosphere. So before I get started, I actually have something that I'm going to read. It's a letter that was given to me by a person that I consider one of my greatest mentors. I got the ability to be able to be introduced to this individual through YPO. It's a Young Presidents Organization group. And, I'm going to leave his name unknown because he wrote this for the group specifically. But the words are so powerful, and I just think that it can be something that anybody can impact their life in a positive way. And just so you know, this guy is probably one of the most successful people I've ever met in my entire life. Not just financially, who he is, his character as a person, to see him as a family person, as a father to his community, and all of those things. So again, on the RFN podcast, we do not measure success by dollars in the bank. That does matter, and it is something that's important to me, and I don't think that, I'm not going to pretend that it's not. Making lots of money shouldn't be something that someone should be ashamed about. It should be the goal. And but if you have a bunch of money and the rest of your life is in disarray or broken, if your family doesn't care about you or your kids don't know who you are, if you missed every memory or important thing in their lives, well, then you know that's not success. So this individual wrote what worked for me. And he broke this down into 3 areas, which I think most people do. Every time on my podcast, naturally when I'm speaking to people, and I think most people naturally break things down into 3 areas, which is their personal life, that's themselves, how do they take care of themselves, time for themselves, selfishly do things that are important to them, but then their obligations to their family and their responsibilities to be a leader in the family and to be a part of the family and to raise good kids, to be a good spouse, and then their professional career or their business, okay? A lot of people will have a 4th bucket, which is spiritual, and I agree. I really try to put 4 buckets in my life, I always come up short somewhere. Spiritually, sometimes is one of those areas that I'm constantly working on. When it comes to my personal and my family and my business, I seem to always have those at the forefront and try not to shortchange any of those in any way. But again, I know that at any given time, I'm just not riding a high on all of those, hitting on all cylinders at all time. Somewhere something sacrifices or suffers, I guess, not sacrifices, but one of those areas typically suffers at some points. The goal is to have a balance across all of them at most times in your life. So what worked for him, broken down into these areas, the first one he put is personal. And the reason I'm reading this is because it kind of has something to do with the topic of the podcast today, which is going to be about the power of no, the power of saying no, and why it's important to be able to say no at the right times in your life. But he starts with his personal, what has worked for him by saying this: no one cares who you are. It's like this podcast. I don't expect for people to really care who I am, who is Kevin Lackey. I just hope that you get value from the podcast. I'm not trying to be known as a person other than someone who can help provide information and maybe influence you to do better. But at the end of the day, when I go home, I know that most people don't care who I am. The people who do care who I am, those are the people around me that I want to care who I am. No one cares who you are, how rich you are, or how many social events you attend. Trust me, no one cares. Do what fulfills you and your spouse, not what you are told you should do. And this is where the power of no will come into today's podcast, is you should do what fulfills you and fulfills your spouse, not what others tell you should do. Have a spiritual life, whatever that is for you. It can be that thing that will give you peace and keep you from going crazy at challenging times. We're all guaranteed that we're going to go through hard times. We are all guaranteed that you're going to have challenging times one way or the other, whether it's in your personal life, health, someone you know, financial, it doesn't matter. But in the good times, you will fall away from whatever that place is that brings you peace, and it's best that you don't do that. You should find a balance of something to go to that is good to you and gives you balance and peace, whether times are good or bad. Don't always be looking for that something to bring you peace or that answer when times are hard or tough. Remember in the good times to be thanking and thankful and looking towards whatever that is that you that spiritual being, something bigger than us. There's something bigger than us out there in the world, and you should be looking towards that all the time as, you know, guidance and as and gratefulness as you're going through your journey in life. He says, give away more than you keep. It will enrich you 10x in return. That can be your money, that can be your talents, or whatever it is you have. Live on a budget. Again, this is going to come back to the power of no. When I start talking about when you're talking yourself into why you need to do something or want something, and how do you say no to those things because they don't align with what's important to you at the time. But live on a budget. However big or small that is, you need to know where your money goes. This person has been fortunate to make a lot of money, and they found that being on a budget is needed more than ever when you start to have some sort of financial success. When you start to make money, it's important to know where your money's going. And the more houses you have, the more, if you buy ranch, toys, it just creates an opportunity to spend money. And that doesn't have to be, you know, 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure incomes. This can be, if you're early in your journey and you're making $50 grand a year and all of a sudden you get a raise, you're making a little more money, you better know where your money's going, because it will catch up with you very quickly. You'll look back and you'll think of all the money and all the things that you wasted on for no reason. Set measurable goals on an annual basis and check them monthly, and you will achieve most of them. Find time for yourself to do things that make you happy. And then right here in this letter that he sent me, which is not why I did this particular podcast on the power of no, but whenever I was going back through this not too long ago, it was in there. It says, say no more than yes. It was a lesson that he was taught by one of his mentors and someone that he thought really brought a lot of value, and that's learning to say no more than yes. He talks about fitness being a journey, not a destination, having some type of fitness in your life and how important it is for your mental health. I believe that wholeheartedly. I try to get up and go to the gym every single day. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder, but I need that for my own personal self. He talks about his family. He said that his accountant once told him that he could look at your net worth, ask you 3 questions about your income, and tell you how many times you've been married. Marriage is expensive, so only do it once. If you're thinking about getting married or you're not married, make sure that you're finding the right person for you. I've learned this more and more from people about the importance of really finding the person who supports you and your goals and who you are and is an encourager of the things that you're trying to accomplish. That's what this podcast is about. If you're focused on yourself and doing all these great things and your spouse or significant other is not on the same page with you or in alignment with you or encouraging you, it's expensive. It will cost you later, not just financially, but emotionally, a lot. So be thinking about that. Your kids, if you have kids, there are not many great parents out there in the world. A great parent is not a friend. A great parent is someone that genuinely loves their children and makes quality time for them. Again, this is going to come back to the power of no. How many times are you asked to go do things that are going to take away from your time and your opportunity to go create memories with your children and be there, or the other people in your life that are important to you? So I would just say, I'm not going to read all the details of what he's written here, but it's a theme over and over of the things that are important to you, whatever buckets those are, how to learn to say no to outside influences that may take away from those buckets. He says about business, and this is critical. For those of you listening to this podcast that are trying to get more about business and learning about integrity and being a person that can build something that's sustainable, these are some of the most important components. Do what you say you will do. If you screw up, fix it. People don't do that often enough today. They spend time blaming others instead of just owning the problems and being responsible for them. I believe sleeping at night is worth more than winning a skirmish with almost anyone. My exception to this rules are employees that aren't honest. I'll fight those all day and sleep fine. You know, it's really important to make sure that you always honor your commitments and that you're doing the right thing all the time. One of the last things he says in here is to treat those below you with kindness and grace. Do not talk about people on your team or people in general negatively. Do it because someone did it for you at some point. Treat the people below you with kindness and grace. Those are just a few words from a guy that I think is really great. I left out a lot of some of the details in here only because they're more personal to him specifically. I wanted to pull out some of the key points that I thought would be really good for young listeners any person listening to this that can say those are great values. Those are great words that anybody can apply. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the power of saying no. And, you know, you've probably seen this movie with Jim Carrey called Yes Man, right? There's a movie out there called Yes Man with Jim Carrey, and it's about this dude who just never says yes to anything. And he's a reclusive dude who's just like never says yes when people ask him to come over for dinner, to go out to the movie, to go do this deal or this extra work event. Hey, do you want to work on Saturday? He just, nope. He's in this habit of saying no to everything. And he's also in this habit of just kind of reclusing himself away from opportunity and other stuff. Well, in this movie, I don't remember if he gets whacked on the head or if he fell on a bike or what, but he wakes up one day and he doesn't have the ability to say no. He only has the ability to say yes to everything that comes his way. And so in this movie, all of a sudden, you know, someone asks him to go to a concert and he says yes. And so he goes to this concert and has this wild, crazy time. And he's like, man, I feel alive. And the next thing you know, he's out. Someone asks him to go do something, and he says yes. And all of a sudden, you know, he finds the girl. He gets the girl for him because some girl's out and says, hey, would you like to go get a coffee? And he says, yes. He's not used to saying yes. He's used to saying no. Next thing you know, he's got the girl. His boss says, hey, you want to come in and work on Saturday? I'm asking people to come in on their day off and get some extra stuff done. And he says, yeah, I'll do that. Yes, why not? And now all of a sudden he's opened up for this opportunity to be promoted at his work. And all these great things are happening for this guy because all of a sudden he is the yes man. He is saying yes to all these opportunities. Okay, that's all great, and that's a movie, and that's fun. And I think if you're a person who says no to everything and you have boxed yourself off from any opportunity and experience, you should be saying yes more, okay? That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the other 95% of people out there that don't know how to say no. They do not know how to say no to everything that comes their way. Hey, you want to go have a beer? Yeah. Hey, you want to go out tonight? Yeah. Hey, you want to go this weekend over to Austin? Let's go down to Austin and go down and see this concert. Yeah. Hey, you want to go run do this? Yeah. Hey, can you help me do this? Yeah. Okay. They never say no. There's a couple things wrong with this ability to not say no. There's two things that in my experience that I've seen with people that just, they have a fear of missing out. Like that's a thing that people talk about, FOMO. I'm not young and cool, but I have heard people talking about this FOMO or whatever, that people have a fear of missing out. So they can't say no because they're like, man, what happens if that's the best night ever? Oh, man, what happens if this is like the craziest night concert? Oh, my gosh, what if I don't go to Austin with them? Or what if I don't go have a drink with them? Or what if if my neighbor asks me to do something and I don't say no to them, but I really shouldn't say yes to them, but my neighbor's now going to hate me. You know, there's this fear of missing out, this fear of disappointing. Okay, so that's one. The second one, which is the most important thing that over time on this podcast you will learn, that I am convinced is so critical for people to grow and to be their very best. This is that they do not value or know the value of their own time. The one thing we're guaranteed, unless the event of getting hit by a bus or you pass away on the spot, is that there's 365 days in a year, there's 24 hours a day, there's 7 days in a week. Some people are born mega wealthy. Some people are born mega poor. Some people are born, it's the haves and the have-nots. Some people are 6'3" with like the best jawline and great hair and a body that's like a model. And some not born that way, okay? But the one thing we all share is equal amount of time. And when you don't know how to say no to things that don't align with your buckets in life or the goals or the key objectives that you say are important to you, it's because you do not value your time. And so what do I mean by that? Someone asks me every week to take a lunch meeting. Some vendor, some partner, some person that we do business with, one of the people on my team, every week will ask me to go to lunch. And, you know, in the early years of being in business, I would not say no to people. It was an insurance person, a vendor, a potential customer, whatever. And I remember after like a year or so, just like always being bogged down going to these lunch meetings, just thinking like, dude, that is such a waste of time. We did not get anything accomplished. Yes, I enjoy being with other people. Yes, I need to eat. But these long lunch meetings were taking away from my productivity. They were taking time away from me working on the things that I knew were most important to me. So I set a rule. This was back in 2013 or 14. I said, you know, I'm not taking a single lunch this entire year. I'm getting my time back. I'm not going to go take these types of meetings. Same thing after work. We got people in town. They want to go have a cocktail, or do you want to go have dinner? Hey, there's an event over here. There's this thing going on that's pretty cool. There's a speaker. Hey, there's this event. There's just something going on that we should go to. You should be a part of. There's going to be people there. And I find myself always just, you know, committing to things that later when I'm there, all I wanted to do was not be there. I wanted to be doing the things that were productive, that filled my personal bucket, that filled me, or that filled me and my spouse and my family, or my business buckets. And sure, there's things to do. There's opportunities out there that you should be taking advantage of, that you can network or meet people. I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm not saying you can't say yes to things at all. I'm just saying you should be asking yourself one question. Why am I doing this? When you're being asked to do things and you have the ability to say yes or no, why am I doing this? Why should I not do this? Why should I do this? You have to value your time. You cannot be afraid of what people are going to think about you, or afraid to hurt people's feelings by just saying no. You know, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Provide alternatives. Provide an alternative for the person who wants to take you to lunch. Provide an alternative. No, you can come over to my office. We can meet for 15, 20 minutes here. Happy to do that. Bring an agenda. Let's do this. Provide an alternative. You know, we have to start with goals. You have to know what your key objectives are in your personal life and your business life, and that's important to you, so that way you know when to say yes and when to say no. Short term, saying yes will make you feel good. Short term, saying yes to people, yes to activities. When you're at the mall and you're walking by the shoe store and you want to buy a pair of shoes and you're like, should I do this? Say no to yourself. Sometimes you have to tell yourself no. More times than not, you should be telling yourself no. Do I need to do this? No, I don't. Should I be doing this? No, I shouldn't. The power of saying no more and more to yourself and simplifying your life in a way that's focused on the key areas, the reward and the gratitude later is so much bigger. I used to personally say yes to everything. I used to say yes to things that I thought would make me feel important, or I thought were important. But I've tried to really boil down what is most important to me, and I have framed my ability to say yes or no to these things that do not align with my goals. So every time there's something going on, which I'll just give you an example. And a lot of times it can be really cool things. Just today, we had a customer appreciation from one of our vendors. BRP over in Plano, Texas, was doing a customer appreciation day. It didn't get put on the calendars necessarily correctly, and I had this window where someone called me and said, hey, you going over to this VIP deal? I'm going to have to drive to Plano, go over there, do this and do that. And I'm like, man, I really do want to go over there. I have a great relationship with those guys. It would be great to be able to do. We got invited. It's important. But it is Tuesday afternoon, right at noon. I have a meeting with our contractor because we're in the middle of building a very large facility in McKinney, Texas that's taken a lot of money. It requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of communication. I also have several other things on top of that, back to back, that I was going to have to move around, readjust the schedules for later in the week, maybe disappoint someone. And I just said, no, I'm not going, And guess what? I feel great about it. No one's going to miss me. It's not going to be a life-ending thing. No one's going to be mad at me. I just didn't get to go. This coming up next week, I have a dealer show for Kawasaki in Palm Springs that, they're paying a portion for us to be there, to go to see the new product. And my intentions were to go. But months ago, I got signed up with the ability to go to the George Bush Library to see George Bush speak to a small group of people and take my wife. So I have this dilemma. I'm looking at my calendar weeks out. Go to Palm Springs, go with a couple of my buddies, great hotel, great time, see all the new product. It's business related. Of course I need to go. Why would I not go? But my wife, when I told her about this George Bush, small group, this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity months ago, she got very excited. I mean, I'm excited, but she was very excited. And, she's at home taking care of the kiddos and doing all the things to keep our life in order. And so she doesn't get the opportunity as much as I do to go do these things, to be moving and traveling with all the things that we have going on. And so I had to come to the conclusion that saying no to the reps and to the other people who have been calling me saying, Kevin, are you going to be able to come? Are you going to be able to come? I was trying to find a way to make it work, and I finally just came to the conclusion that I needed to say no. No, I'm not coming. I wish I could come. I wish I could be there, but no, I'm not going. And you know what that's going to do? That bucket that we talked about earlier about your family and the spouse and doing what's important for you, not others, it's going to fill that bucket. Not only am I going to get to do something really cool, I'm going to get to fill that bucket. And I know that my wife will have appreciated that, not having to miss out on that opportunity. So sometimes when you're growing in your career or you start to see more and more success, you see more and more opportunities that come up. These opportunities to be invited to things, social events, and stuff like that. And this is really where you have to have that discipline to be able to say no more often. You have to ask yourself, how is this going to benefit me? How is this going to benefit my job? How is this going to benefit my family? Why am I doing this? It has taken me years to get to do this podcast because I was saying no to me being able to create the time and make the time to do it and asking myself, why am I going to do this? Why am I going to do this podcast? And at some point, I just really came to the conclusion that I'm going to do it because it's important to me. It's something that I said I wanted to do, that I thought I could do. It was a challenge to myself. It was a challenge that this is a new way to communicate, and why not? Okay? I asked myself why, and then I said why not. But it took me a long time to get to that. I really wanted to know the why and how this was going to make me better. And once I answered that, that's when I said yes to it. When I got to the point where I knew the benefit and the reward for me and my team of doing this, that's when I decided to do it. Okay, so some of my most proud moments and memories in my life are the result of saying no. Let me say that again. Some of my most personal, proud moments and memories are a result of saying no to things. I don't know how many times that I've said no to something that I was like, I really want to go do that. That would be fun. That would be cool. Why not? But I just said no. And then I came home and like my, little 5-year-old girl crawled up into my lap and told me how much she loved me and missed me. And she was so glad that I was home. And she danced and did something funny and silly that, I would have maybe heard about it, but probably not. But I never would have got to be a part of it. Or coming home and being able to sit down and help my son with something. Or being able to go watch him, go to his karate class. Like, actually say no to something so I could go be a part of that and sit there and watch my son in a karate lesson. And I'm going, man, like this is so much more meaningful to me and so much more important to me than what I would have been doing, okay? So just again, some of my most proud moments were the result of saying no. And this is another key thing. Some of my most productive times in my life were the result of me saying no. Hey, we're doing this. Hey, I got this going on. Hey, would you like to do this? And just saying, no, I can't. And going and focusing on the areas of my life that are important to me and being super productive, okay? I thought that that all these things, events and social events, would make me feel important, and they just don't. They really don't. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do some of it, but people who live in this this social need to be seen and feel like they can't say no to anything, they're missing something. They're empty inside somewhere. They're not fulfilled in their own lives if they feel the need to be at every social event. And I see some of these people at places where I'm thinking, how the hell do you have time to do all these things? Like, you have a full-time job just trying to be seen. It's the person at the bar on Friday night. It's the person at the social event. It's the person always out, hey, to be seen or don't be seen. It's like, dude, like sometimes if you want to hit massive targets, this podcast is not about an average life. This is about creating massive actions, hitting massive targets, finding true success in a well-balanced, well-rounded life. And to do that, you have to be able to say no. You're not going to be successful and fulfilled on a social scene, always being out in the deals. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that you say no to every opportunity or every invitation or every meeting, but you should be conscious, very conscious of why you are doing the things that you're doing. There's all sorts of quotes out there or things that you see that talk about, while they were out partying, I was studying, or while they were out, doing whatever, vacationing and spending, doing and drinking, and this person was honing in their craft. I think there's a lot to that, man. I'm just telling you, if you want to be super successful, you have to learn to say no to a lot of things, and you have to have the ability to be able to, the discipline and the ability to stay focused in the areas of your life that are important to you, not to everybody else, man. I talk about on this podcast about being selfish all the time. I'm a selfish person. I am not selfish in the sense that I don't help people or care or empathetic. I actually help a lot of people. I'm very empathetic to people's needs and people's circumstances, And we give to communities and to people. I'll be the first person to stop in the middle of the road on the middle of the night to help someone change a tire, to hand someone a $20 bill if they're hungry. I just, whatever it is. But I'm selfish because I know my value. I know my value, and that's why I've learned to say no more than I say yes. So when you learn to do that, you will get ahead. You will find the way to fill you in a way that is different. The void of being able to say no to the things that aren't important, that way that you can accomplish the things that are important to you. And that feeling, that void that answering yes to everything fills, it will be so much more real and authentic and deep. Because, saying yes to everything to feel important short term does not create a long-term sustainable feeling of success and happiness, okay? I was listening to Andy Frizzell the other day, and he was talking about, you better be built on a foundation that is real happiness. Doesn't mean you're happy all the time. Doesn't mean you're not going to have a bad day. But your core, who you are as a human being, the things that you do, the legacy that you leave, that is what is going to determine your happiness in the event that something happens to you. And being able to, this discipline to say no more than you say yes is critical. So I'm going to leave you with this, and it's 2 reasons that you say yes to everything when you should be saying no to more things. I'm not saying you have to say no, yes to everything or no to everything, but you should be saying no to more things. If you're listening to this podcast, I will bet you with, $1,000 cash that if you're listening to this podcast, you need to be saying no to more things in your life. No to going out more. No to things that are distractions. Saying no to yourself on things when you're cheating your diet, when you're spending money recklessly. You need to be learning to say no more often. You either have a fear of missing out or not being cool. You got to buy the new stuff to be cool. You got to be seen to be cool. You got to be there to be cool. You got to drink a Red Bull and vodka to keep up. No. It doesn't align with certain things. Wherever you're at in your journey, man, you need to learn to say no. It's either that or you do not value your time. I value my time so much today more than I did in the past. I hate waking up early. I'm like, dude, I could sleep. Man, just don't wake me up because I could sleep. I love to sleep. My wife wakes up at like 4:30 in the morning, just bing, right out of bed, no alarm, just goes and starts doing stuff around the house. I mean, I can't do it. So therefore, I have had to create a discipline. I say no to staying up past 10 o'clock at night. I say no to cocktails during the week. I say no to a Ranger game that's going to get me home at 11. Maybe I'll go and stay for an hour till 9, but I say no to the things that are going to keep me from being able to get up early in the morning. I value my time so much at this point in my life that getting up at 5 a.m. and being out of the house and getting the things I'm done and being productive as much as I can all day long and saying no to lunches, fancy lunches, saying no to opportunities, saying no to things that don't align with the things that are important to me. I mean, I've turned down a lot of cool stuff. I've said no to a lot of cool things. Red Bull Soapbox was this last weekend. Guess who sponsored it? Freedom Power Sports. Guess who had VIP tickets to this Red Bull Soapbox? Kevin Lackey. Guess who didn't show up to the Red Bull Soapbox? Kevin Lackey. Why? Because I had work. I had things that were important here that needed to be done. My 11-year-old son, he had a piano concert that's important to him right in the middle of that day. So do you think that my son would have never forgiven me Do you think my wife would have said, yeah, I understand, it's work-related, go to the deal, whatever? Yeah, of course they would have. I didn't have anybody that told me I had to say no to going. I just knew that going, although it would have been fun, did not align with the priorities in my life. It did not align with the goals in my life. And so I missed out. I didn't go. It was a great time. I heard everybody get to talk about it, and I don't even care. I didn't miss anything. I'm sure it was a blast. I hope everybody had a great time. But for me, seeing my son up on a stage playing the piano that he's been learning to play for the last 6 months, and he was up there for 15 minutes, that brought me more joy and satisfaction and alignment to my personal goals around my family and around all the other things that I accomplished that day, and then led into, guess what? That evening, Dad and my daughter, we had a daddy-daughter date. So that night, instead of being out gone at Red Bull that turns into how do you say no to drinks after that? How do you say no to the party after that or the opportunity after that or, hey, whatever's going on? It's hard to do. Or you get home and you're tired. You've been out in the sun all day going to this deal. Guess what? My whole weekend lined up with my priorities. I had a daddy-daughter date that very night. And guess what? Me and my little 6-year-old girl went and had an absolute blast. Dad was at 100%. Dad was fully engaged in being there with her. And then the next day, I had to actually marry one of my best friends. I got ordained as a minister. Can you believe that? I got ordained as a minister. And guess what? I had to be prepared for him and his wife. So I had opportunities on Friday and Saturday and all these other things, different distractions that just didn't align with the things that I say are important to me, to make sure that I fulfill my obligations to my friends and family, to fulfill my obligations to my kids, to fulfill my obligations to my business. Oh, and by the way, I went and worked out both of those days. Saturday, went and worked out before I went to the wedding. You know, decided to get my mind clear and get free because that's really important to me right now. To be healthy, be in the gym, feel fit, feel mentally fit, feel physically fit. So everything I'm doing, I'm saying, you know, I'm asking myself, why am I saying yes to this? Why not know what's most important to me? So that's it. Thank you all for listening to the RFN podcast. The power of no is real. Say no more. Say no more. Don't be a yes man. Unless you're like an introvert who has problems and no friends and no excitement in their life, then yeah, go say yes to some shit. Get out. Go experience something. But if you're like most people that I know who don't have the ability to say no most of the time, just be thinking tonight, it's Tuesday night. What is it, Taco Tuesday? It's Tito's Tuesday. Tomorrow's going to be Wacky Whiskey Wednesday. And then it's going to be Tito's Thursday again. And then it's going to be Fun Friday. And then it's going to be Shit Show Saturday. And then there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something to do. And if you don't learn to say no. Oh, by the way, when you're walking through the mall, I didn't have the power to say no for you that are looking. New Adidas Ultra Boost. New Adidas Ultra Boost, okay? Walking through the mall, I had no power to say no. I said, why do I need these? I don't. Why are you going to get them? You shouldn't. Say no, Kevin. I said, nope, I can't do it. I got to have those Ultra Boost. They look so good. I was at Subway earlier. There was a table with 4 grown men, and this guy, I was walking by. He said, hey, man, what kind of shoes are them? I said, man, these are the Adidas Ultra Boost. They look fresh, don't they? He was like, yeah, they do, man. I walked out of there feeling like $1 million. That's why I bought them. They feel so good. They make me feel good. All that stuff. But I'll tell you, I haven't bought tennis shoes in a while. I didn't feel guilty. My family's not going to go without. I'm not on a budget so that to the point that I can't buy a pair of tennis shoes. Okay? My life might be different than yours. You may be able to afford 1,000 pair of tennis shoes, and that's just what you want to do, but you may not be able to afford a pair of expensive tennis shoes. So what do you need to do the next time you walk by and you know you can't afford them? You say no. No, Kevin, I can't afford these. I've had plenty of times in my life that I've had to say, no, you can't afford these. And I regret, if I go back and look, I spent more time and said yes to myself and to other things when I was younger. I've been having to learn this in the last, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. It does come with maturity. It comes with experience. You learn to just say no. I don't need that. Can I afford it? Yeah, but I don't need it. It doesn't align with my goals. It doesn't align with these things. So it's not just a pair of shoes. It's when someone asks you to do something. Watch my house. Watch my dog. Hey, can you do this for me? Hey, can you help me move on Saturday? It's nice to be able to help, but man, if you're supposed to be working Saturday and you don't want to tell someone no, you better get your ass to work. Nope, I got to work. Where are you at? What are the things in your life that this power of no applies? Thank you for listening to the RFN podcast. Go check out the Kevin Lackey on Instagram, RFN, the RFN podcast on all the different platforms. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Please tell a friend about the RFN podcast. You know what? When I started this, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know if one person would listen, 10 people would listen, 100 people would listen. We've gotten 1,000+ listeners now and listens to this podcast. I've had people texting me, emailing me, coming up to me saying that they're really enjoying it. And so if you don't like it and you don't enjoy it, if you know me and you're wondering why is Kevin doing this podcast? I've known this dude for a long time and I don't know why he's doing this podcast. Don't listen. Tune out. But if you're someone who supports me, if you're someone who encourages me, if you're someone who wants to be better like me, then please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, shoot me a message, whatever. I want to hear your feedback. We're going to keep making episodes. We're going to keep perfecting the right messages and the delivery and how much content and guests. I'm going to bring on some amazing guests. I have some amazing guests that's going to be coming up over the next weeks and months, and we're just going to keep at it, man. We're going to make this thing great. And so I appreciate your support and the kind words from the people out there who have been saying comments and reaching out to me. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a killer day. Have a killer week. Say no to more. Think about what it is you're doing. Ask yourself why, and I think it'll bring you the results you need. Peace out. Have a great day.